Group D is a really hard group to predict, but there are definitely a couple of underdogs in there. Ryung and HeRoMaRinE, while being great Terran players, might be a bit overmatched by the veterans in this group.
There are 3 top-tier Protoss players and Protoss vs. Protoss experts in this group. I think SOS is the strongest, but he's already shown a bunch of his builds recently in the GSL. He's going to have to come up with some new tricks and strategies in this group. One player I'm especially excited to see perform here is a Laser. This guy has been a great player. He's always proven that when the whole world's watching in the biggest StarCraft 2 tournaments, he can beat basically everybody. He's gotten top 4 in the world, and I think he can absolutely get out of this group.
A Laser has just dynamite Zerg vs. Protoss, and you can never count him out against anybody.
Time to get down to the serious business of talking about Group D here for the Intel Extreme Masters World Championship. And we do have Pig, the real Pig, and we have Artosis as well. Pig's looking at me weird. I accidentally called Maynarde Pig before, apparently.
Okay.
Even though I didn't realize it. So, we're going to be talking about Group D. We have Laser, we have Classic, we have SOS, we have Trap, we have Marine, and we have Ryung. I said Marine, HeRoMaRinE. It's abbreviation. It's fine. And interestingly enough, you know, you two, Artosis, Tasteless, you guys were talking about Laser, how he's able to beat anybody on any given stage. You know, he's got fantastic Zerg versus Protoss. His Zerg versus Zerg is phenomenal as well. His Zerg versus Terran, though, he just lost against HeRoMaRinE. So not the best of starts for him here. And it has traditionally been not the best matchup for him.
Yeah, you're very right. If you have to pick a weak matchup for him, it would be his against Terran matchup.
Yes.
And the thing is, HeRoMaRinE, he's underrated. There's no question about this at this point. Like, I think at this point you have to put him like top 3 to 4 Terran in the non-Korean scene for sure.
Easily.
And really, if you keep looking at his results, like he's getting through these group stages, he's doing well in qualifiers.
Yes.
Everywhere he's popping up, he's having strong results.
We saw him at the Intel Extreme Masters Pyeongchang, and even here in the open bracket, he was able to beat Snoot and Kelazur on his road to win in a winner's bracket spot, Pig. So maybe this is the time we just say, okay, let's stop underestimating him.
Yeah, it's about time. I think we've learned our lesson, especially us guys who are meant to predict who wins the matches and who's going to come out on top. HeRoMaRinE is incredibly consistent, and we talked about it a few days ago when we started the show. We were recapping the groups, and we were kind of saying, you know, HeRoMaRinE is this guy who he's very consistent, but when he comes up against these top-tier competitors in the past, he suddenly falls short, and he goes from destroying everybody to losing in relatively one-sided matches. But with the way he's been playing more recently, he's getting better and better. When he's facing these guys who've been training in Korea, and even some of these Korean players themselves, he's actually putting up a very good fight and often taking the series.
I'm getting word that our match is almost ready here, so we'll have plenty of time to be able to talk about all of the players in this group over the next couple of hours, as well as check up on the games that are going on the laptops here as well, though. For now, it's time to head off to HeRoMaRinE going up against Ryung.
And welcome back, everybody. It was a long road, but we finally did it. We got through Group C, and after so many Protoss and Zerg, it's finally time to switch it up for the Terran versus Terran. It's gonna be Germany versus South Korea. Please give it up for HeRoMaRinE and Ryung!
What's up, everybody? Tasteless and Maynarde here, bringing you this TVT that I think is going to be a very close series.
I agree. I mean, HeRoMaRinE, they brought it up. He sometimes folds under the pressure against these monsters of the scene, like your SOSs, your classics, but he actually looked pretty tight against SOS when I was looking over Artosis' shoulder at that desk. Didn't come through the series, but it was definitely very, very close. The problem for HeRoMaRinE coming into this series, though, is that, in my opinion, Ryung is a TVT expert. He's a surgeon, Tasteless.
He absolutely is. He had some of the best Terran versus Terrans of his entire career in exactly a year ago.
Yeah.
The 2017 Intel Extreme Masters, and he's here to prove that once again. HeRoMaRinE, I would say, has been on a roll, getting this far into the tournament, and now we're going to see how he can perform against some of the very best Terran players in the entire world.
Certainly, and you got to take it into question, what does his practice looks like? Ryung lives in Korea. He's playing against all of the best Terrans in the world every day on ladder, whereas HeRoMaRinE, there are good Terrans in Europe. By no stretch of the imagination, there is your Thermals, you know, there are other good Terrans, but HeRoMaRinE, he's going to mainly get those good Zerg practice games. So his TVC is really, really, really good. That was all shown in the series earlier. But this is a matchup where you don't get a ton of practice on the EU ladder. Well, you can get plenty of TVTs, but of the caliber that you need to beat someone like Ryung, the consistent practice at that level is tough to get.
We are all a product of our environments, and
Correct.
the servers he's on and the metas he's dealing with on those respective servers are quite different. Korea produces a lot of very good Terrans. They always have, from StarCraft 1 all the way to the start and to where we are now here in StarCraft 2.
Well, who's in Korea? TY, Innovation, Maru, Beyond, etc., etc. It's a good practice regime.
So for HeRoMaRinE now, I'm not saying he can't do it, but if he can, this is going to be another evolution as he gets deeper here. Going on into this group. And I will say, as good as Ryung is, I think HeRoMaRinE does have a chance of beating him here.
He's not the scariest Korean Terran at the moment in this tournament, certainly. TY, of course, is through. Maru is through. Those two guys, I would say, are a lot more threatening in TVT than Ryung, but again, have to reiterate, Ryung's favorite matchup is TVT, and I think that he's going to get his work cut out here for HeRoMaRinE. This is a Meisterschaft champion from yesteryear.
Introducing our first player in the blue, in the bottom right. Make some noise for HeRoMaRinE!
And in the top left, a red Terran from South Korea. Make some noise for Ryung!
So in this Terran versus Terran, let's see exactly how they opt to open. Both players taking gases right away. TVT is a funny matchup because there are so many different directions you can take, so many unit compositions that you can get. Doesn't really seem like there's a right or wrong way to play the matchup, and depending on what they opt to do in this game, a lot of times it can look very even for even a full 10 minutes, and then there's one engage and the game ends right away because the damage output for some Terran unit compositions, like Marine Tank, for instance, happens so fast that the game can be done in the blink of an eye.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Tasteless. One of the reasons why a lot of people like TVT is because there is so many viable choices in this matchup. So many things can work even at the highest level all the way down to Bronze 3. You choose it, you can make it work. Just got to pick the right situation and do it well. As we're seeing in the early stages of this TVT, both players aren't opting for the 17 gas for those early gases that you can get earlier on. This is just a 16 regular expand build where they're going for a 20cc on the low ground with Reapers. So an economic phase, sort of focused opening where they slow down the factory a little bit and get that faster expansion.
It should be noted that Ryung actually went to scout here, whereas HeRoMaRinE is opting to use that extra SCV to play a blind man's game. HeRoMaRinE saying he's not actually that concerned to find out right away what his opponent is doing. Now that may mean that Ryung thought, oh, is he going to try to proxy me? Is he going to hide any structures on the map? And gets confirmation that, no, it's going to be a normal game. But in fact, Ryung still has the opportunity, if he wants to hide something on the map later on with this SCV that's still out and about.
Potentially. The proxy starports are very strong in TVT, depending on when and where you do it. I think that this SCV from Ryung is actually here to help his Reaper out for trying to pick off the Reaper of HeRoMaRinE. who is down here in the natural, and the SCV here is just basically be the linebacker for the Reaper to make targeting it down a little bit tougher.
Okay, great job there by Ryung. It's not a lot, but sometimes you only need a little bit to start to really pick up that lead later on. And the fact that he actually managed to assassinate the SCV that was making that command center forces HeRoMaRinE to pull another SCV down in order to get that command center finished, giving Ryung just like the slightest edge there, having that one additional worker kill.
To use the fighting game terminology, it's just a bit of chip damage, but of course we know that if you do enough of it, you can take your opponent out.
Certainly.
We're having a very mirrored opening for both players, by the way. Reacted barracks, getting tech labs on their factory, switching him over. The only difference is HeRoMaRiNE's playing a little bit safer here, dropping a bunker. And as I say that, Ryung doing the same thing back at home, really just mirrored builds from both players.
Yeah, it's kind of cool. Now, how long will this look? The same. It could be for a while, but there's always the opportunity to try to deviate. I'm actually wondering is HeRoMaRiNE going to get that Raven next? No, he goes for the Banshee. By the way, the Reaper tries to run by for Ryung, gunned down by that Marine. So we have one player going for detection here, that's Ryung. HeRoMaRiNE going for cloaked Banshees. Now, even if you have detection, you don't always end up killing the Banshee. The Raven does tend to have some more utility at times, a little bit later on after the Banshees have had their first goes at the expansions.
Oh man, I feel like when you, I mean, it makes more sense to an Australian, but if you see one Banshee, it's like seeing a spider in your house. It means there's more on the way.
Yeah.
The single Raven here can deal with one Banshee, but the problem is generally you can hit in two places at once, especially think about Maru. Maru, when he has multiple Banshees, is a real pest, and it's tough to deal with if you don't have multiple Ravens. In fact, Ryung making sure that he does get multiple Ravens, which I'm happy to see, by the way. Also, the cool thing about getting Ravens early is that they start to pull up their mana. Their energy starts to build up, so that if you want to go for a push later, you have that energy for Interference Matrix and even Armor Shredder missiles, potentially auto turrets as well. Lots of viability here with that Raven.
So we have tanks being produced right now from Ryung. Can we get a quick check over at HeRoMaRiNE's base? Okay, so he also has his tanks. Now, we want to keep an eye on the tank count because after the first big battle, a lot of times a player that had more tanks overall is going to be ahead. Now, that's not a golden rule we always follow, but it's one of the ways we could try to evaluate where a game is. And the fact that they both appear to be going for Marine tank here, powering up, by the way, Ryung with 2 ABs, and I believe HeRoMaRiNE only had 1. That's another thing to definitely watch out for.
He actually has the double, but they're just done a little bit earlier. They're in the back of the mineral line in the main there.
Oh, good catch, okay.
Yeah, so there is going to be, both players is going for a very, very similar opening here. Small differences here and there, obviously. The main difference is the Cloak Banshee tech for HeRoMaRiNE, the Ravens here for Ryung. So Ryung being a bit more defensive, but again, the pushing potential is there with the Ravens as well. It's actually, I'm really excited to see this because I feel like Marine tank really shows the caliber of a Terran when they face another Terran, when this style collides. Sometimes when you go mass Cyclone, it can just sort of end.
Right.
You know, but when you go Marine tank, it's very, very positional, very strategic. And this Raven is right on top of that Banshee, so this is going to be tough for HeRoMaRiNE to find an opening here.
Okay, so the Raven is stalking the Banshee, and it looks like on neither front will HeRoMaRiNE's Banshees come in there. Now, ideally, you do want to kill off a certain number of SCVs. It doesn't mean that your attack has failed, but you've certainly invested in something that didn't really pay for itself in any way.
Yeah, I mean, it is kind of annoying for HeRoMaRiNE because these Banshees aren't cheap. They're, they're 100 gas each. The cloak tech is also expensive. It's not free what he's trying to do right now with these Banshees. Luckily, the Interference Matrix did run out, and also the Auto Turret did not kill the Banshee here. So a higher energy Raven being pulled with those Marines to try and deal with it. HeRoMaRiNE finally starting to find some damage with this Banshee, which a lot of HeRoMaRiNE fans are probably very happy to see here, as it would have otherwise set him behind a fair bit in tech.
You can see the Banshee just chipping away, taking out a few workers. Of course, now we get a 5th SCV killed. And that was actually the kind of damage that HeRoMaRiNE was hoping to find.
Yeah, that's quite nice.
Third bases for both sides have been taken. It looks like HeRoMaRiNE will be mining from his a little bit more quickly than Ryung. Although I think Ryung's about to have his SCV transfer occur. And we're seeing already on Ryung's side of the map, all these upgrades finish. HeRoMaRiNE just slightly behind. And then we're going to be at an even upgrade front.
Nice move with those Banshees, just as Ryung was trying to take that third, sending some SCVs down to that third base. A Banshee found a couple of them transferring over, so just putting in a bit more work. 8 kills on that Banshee right there. This one to the north is also something that's annoying for Ryung, but It looks like Ryung has decided that he's going to try and put some damage on the HeRoMaRiNE side of the map here. HeRoMaRiNE is up quite a bit in army supply, though, and most of it is actually on the ground at his third base. So this could either go really well or really badly for Ryung.
Okay, so we have HeRoMaRiNE waiting now. Ryung itching to have an engagement. This Reaper here to spot is just out of vision. Ryung's about to push out now. HeRoMaRiNE is ahead in supply, although that's mostly workers. And now we're gonna have a siege mode set up here. And I think, in fact, Ryung might be slightly overextended if these tank shots get off first.
He definitely is. He loses one tank immediately as it was in range of the siege tanks there of HeRoMaRiNE. And the Ravens do interference matrix these tanks, but it doesn't really help him right now because there's nothing pushing up into those tanks. They get unlocked and they're ready to fight again. They're getting a little too deep here though. Oh, HeRoMaRiNE moving his tanks a little bit too far forward. He's gonna lose two of them. And the third one gets interference matrix as well, so the tank advantage is starting to seesaw a little bit.
You can see right now it's 3 tanks to what could possibly soon be 1 here for HeRoMaRiNE. I think that was a little bit too ambitious for HeRoMaRiNE to stim and run down, but some of these Marines are in the back. He might be able to get a tank snipe off if Ryung isn't super attentive about defending this position.
It does look like HeRoMaRiNE has a Marine advantage. He also certainly has a good count here on the low ground. Oh man, catching these siege tanks of Ryung. Ryung was on the retreat and HeRoMaRiNe pounces. Huge cleanup there. 2 of the tanks go down and Ryung gets deflected.
Brilliant play here by HeRoMaRiNE. He's going to take this opportunity and try to push into the north, possibly denying that third base expansion. Map control going to HeRoMaRiNE. Ryung has to up his defense.
The cool thing for Ryung, though, is that his upgrades are a little bit further ahead, so there could be a window where that makes the difference. At the moment, both players are trying to catch each other with their pants down. When are you on siege? Can I pounce and take out a couple more tanks out of your army? You mentioned at the beginning of the cast, Tasteless, the tanks rule the ground here for Terran. It's not unlike Brood War. The tank is so scary and has to be taken so seriously. And now that the Ravens aren't here for Ryung, it's a little bit tougher for him to break it.
Okay, we see the siege tanks sieging up now. Ryung is taking a fourth where it appears as though HeRoMaRiNE is trying to bulk up an even bigger army and possibly go for a bust. I think it's going to be a little bit dicey, though, if HeRoMaRiNE doesn't do some kind of a drop and tries to break this location we're looking at right now.
Looks like Ryung producing 2 tanks at once from double factories here. There's that 2-2 about to finish for him, and also +1 for his tanks as well. So not only is his bio going to be more powerful for a little bit here, but also +1 for the tanks. Is his tanks going to be a little bit more powerful? Oh man, this ball of Marines had one job. They were looking for this. Oh, if HeRoMaRiNE's paying attention, that Liberator did see that double drop, and he was paying attention. He's got some units here. Oh, actually, maybe he's not going for it.
I believe
going for an attack in 2 places at once.
I believe HeRoMaRiNE's going to try to set up an attack. We still have the opportunity for a big drop to come in over here towards the main. Ryung now with an engagement down here in the far left corner of the map. Meanwhile, HeRoMaRiNE actually looping around to this 4th base, and an attack is about to commence.
I think both players are going to take a good chunk of damage here, Tasteless. That base is forced to be lifted here for Ryung. HeRoMaRiNE with some units back at home, but not with that many. Loses a tank, going to lose a Viking. This CC, even a little bit of bother. But does Ryung want to go for a juicier target? Yes, he does. He's looking for that mineral line.
He's going to go right in here. So many SCVs now getting gunned down. We don't see any immediate response here from HeRoMaRiNE. He's losing so much back at home, attempting to go for a drop of his own inside the 2nd base here for Ryung.
Oh, this is a bit of a YOLO move here from HeRoMaRiNE, but it could certainly work. Some of those medevacs get taken down by the turret. Ryung is in a bit of a choke here. The Vikings are going to help out a lot with these medevacs. Ryung should be able to clean this up eventually, but he's not taking that much SCV damage. HeRoMaRiNE coming in, but this tank is just dealing with his Marines.
HeRoMaRiNE trying to play catch-up, actually does manage to kill 10 SCVs to the 12 killed for his own workers back there. Right now, it's still 3 base versus 3 base, although I think Ryung might be able to get his 4th a little bit more quickly. So far, it's been a real slugfest in this TVT.
Certainly has. The 4th CC is still alive for HeRoMaRiNE, so he can float that over, but the biggest deal here is that the army got traded very, very nicely there for Ryung, and not so great for HeRoMaRiNE. He's down almost 30 army supply, or just over 30 army supply from Ryung, who is pushing. They have equal upgrades here, and very, very close in Marine count, but that 9 tank advantage for Ryung is insane.
Not all the tanks lined up properly, many of them still in the back, does allow HeRoMaRiNE to try and buy some more time as that one tank in the front, finishing that off. Ryung now looking for an opening, moving down towards the bottom side of the map in what appears to be an undefended location. HeRoMaRiNE instead moving through the middle.
Takes a lot of damage to his Marines here. This is a very good spot for the tanks of Ryung. How does HeRoMaRinE break out of this? How does he save this command center, Tasteless? This is going to be very, very tough for him. He does stim in, but he's in range of about 5 tanks. His Marines are getting minced up by the splash damage. HeRoMaRinE bleeding units, and Ryung even coming in for the National with even more reinforcements. HeRoMaRinE is against the ropes here.
It looks like Ryung may be able to push through. 147 supply to 110. The command center has been turned into a planetary, but that is not helping with the range of those tanks continuing to bombard it in that position. We're still waiting to see what HeRoMaRinE can make and where he'll try to break through in this location. But for now, the lower center of the map is very much so controlled by Ryung.
He's almost doubled the army supply of HeRoMaRinE now, who still has an economy to work with, but he's trying to produce as much as he can. However, Ryung is almost in range of some of these bases here. These tanks doing tons of work for Ryung. HeRoMaRinE pulls the SCVs off the line for one last hurrah, but it's not enough. GG! Ryung was down, but definitely not out, and fought back in game 1 there.
Very impressive game back there. It seemed pretty even, but when it came to the attacks, Ryung is very good with his footwork. He knows how to play a zoning game. He knows how to identify where you're moving and then use that calculus to determine where you're going to be weakest, and he's going to punish you for that. And we saw even back there, he backed up for a minute trying to regroup and look for another opening, but already HeRoMaRinE adding everything together identifies, okay, I'm far too behind now. There's not much I can do.
You're absolutely right. Good analysis there. Before we get into game number 2, we're going to head over to the desk with the boys to see what else is happening in Group D.
That's right, we're back on track here for Group D, and we do have updates coming from the battle station for the Intel Extreme Masters. We're going to check in with Artosis first. You're in Elaser versus Classic.
That's right. It's game 1 on Blackpink, and Elaser is playing kind of like we saw him over the shoulder practicing a lot of Swarm hosts in this game. He actually made a fantastic flank on a moving out army of Classic this game and got way ahead, but then we saw a lot of battles of Roaches versus Immortals when there was like no cooldown on the Swarm host. So a little bit of sloppy play out of Elaser, but he's still in a good spot. He's got 5 bases. He just killed the 4th of Classic. I mean, it's looking to me like he definitely has a good shot at taking down game number 1.
Big deal, considering a lot of people saw Classic as one of the big favorites for this tournament. Thank you very much, Artosis. We're going to check in with Pig now, who does have the good old Jinair Green Wings battle going on. SOS versus Trap.
Yeah, it's been an action-packed game 1 here to the series, so still in the early days. Right now, we can hop into game. We can see that there is a double Oracle Stalker pressure coming out from SOS, looking to do some damage. He defended a big Stalker assault earlier on in this game, and it's still tied neck and neck, really. These guys just both very, very close in this series. Those Oracles not really finding anything in the main either. Good defense from Trap. Identical worker counts, very similar on the tech. We've got Blink on the way, faster upgrades here for Trap as well. Yeah, this game's very even. It's going to go on.
A world champion finalist in Trap going up against a champion in SOS here for the Intel Extreme Masters in Katowice. So thank you very much, gentlemen, for those updates. Those series are going to continue on, and I think we're ready to go back over to the commentary team here in just a second for game number 2 of our TVT.
So far here in game number 1, we saw what was a pretty even matchup early on. It was in the mid-game in TVT where we actually see why Ryung is such a worthy opponent.
Yeah, definitely. But I saw glimmers of hope there for HeRoMaRinE. Not even glimmers, actually, like big flashing red lights saying, hope, hope, hope. Because he is, that was insanely close. He could have won that game just as easily as he lost it.
He actually had a pretty good position for a little bit there over at the 4th base, but it was not quite, it did not quite have the oomph to it that allowed the game to close out. So we'll see if HeRoMaRinE can bring a different game and maybe come out on top. Speaking of that player, in the upper right, in the blue, make some noise for HeRoMaRinE!
And in the bottom left, currently on match point from South Korea, this is Ryung! Well, Ryung showing us why he is so good at this matchup, and indeed how good he is at this matchup. Being down a fair bit in army supply and also in economy, losing his command center and then turning it right back around on his head and going, I know how to set up these siege tanks. Acid Plant is going to be my map, and we're going to go to this one.
I wonder if we're going to have the same kind of unit compositions. It's pretty orthodox. It's pretty textbook Terran versus Terran to go for Marine tank, but you don't have to do it. I mean, this is why StarCraft is on some level kind of an art form. You can really express yourself in the game, and there are so many ways to play it. You can do a fast game, a short game, an aggressive game. You can do a deceptive game. You can do an economy game. And I think maybe HeRoMaRinE should try to play around the strengths of Ryung. Try to do an approach that maybe allows HeRoMaRinE to leverage the assets that he has going into this. Or maybe I'm totally wrong and he is actually much better at that standard TVT game. He just wasn't able to show that off in our first game.
Well, HeRoMaRinE did decide to change it up a little bit. We talked about the double gases there in game number 1. He is, well, actually, Ryung didn't confirm that there was a second. I guess he just saw the SCVs mining, so he knows. But there is a 2-gas opening here for HeRoMaRinE, which means he has the faster factory, as we're seeing shown in the production tab here, with Ryung going for the faster base. So what does this mean? It means that Ryung is going to have a bit of an economy explosion shortly, but HeRoMaRinE is going to have some scarier, stronger, higher tech units in the very early stages.
So these are very different ways to direct this game. We already see the Hellions being made, and we've actually had so far, even just at the Intel Extreme Masters, but I'd say in the last month or so of StarCraft 2, a lot of precision attacks that do end up doing a ton of damage and punishing some of these fast expanding players. In fact, in general, you've seen a lot of precision and timing attacks work pretty effectively, and I'd say the last maybe 14 months of StarCraft 2, where I thought we were kind of going in more of a macro game meta.
I would even say in the last 24 hours, like in Group A, like a bunch of Maru's games would just end with a Reaper and 2 Hellions, or 2 Reapers and a Hellion, just killing 8 or 10 SCVs and going from there. HeRoMaRinE is opting for the Cyclone option here. With the Cloak Banshees, we see that when you get the faster factory, it means you can get the faster starport, means you can get the faster harassment and also tech units. Oh, this high ground though for Ryung. He gets a lot of free damage on that Hellion.
That Hellion still able to dish out some damage. The bruised infantry units there on the high ground will probably remain there for a little bit. Now, don't forget, there's a Banshee coming out along with that Cyclone too. So any damage that Ryung took early on can be dished out later. But I think this chasing down this SCV and trying to kill it off is actually going to buy Ryung a little bit more time.
Well, it felt like HeRoMaRinE was sort of like, okay, there's a cap on how much damage I can get done here with a bunch of my units. Even if I send the Cyclone across the map, it's very risky how much damage it's going to do. So he brings it back home, and he's going to just sit it here in the natural and just hold for a little bit. Maybe poke with the faster units at the front, and he's going to do just that with the Reapers, while the Banshee is very much looking like it wants to sneak around to the side of the main and go in the SCV line. But look at that. Ryung has already got a turret on the way.
Now, bear in mind, with HeRoMaRinE having a later expand, that's less resources. So there's always a double-edged sword when you try to get aggressive and do damage early on, as if you don't, your opponent can generally end up making more units. Now, this Banshee coming in right now, we need to see how many workers, if it can get any workers, how many it will kill, because this is going to be the attempted equalizer for now here from HeRoMaRinE.
So this is a bit of a dance here. Obviously, he wants a scan. The Cyclone can lock on to this Banshee and kill it, but if it breaks vision like this, the lock-on gets broken as well. And that's on a cooldown here for the Cyclone. Very annoying for Ryung, but he does have that Raven one more time.
We're still waiting to see if the Banshee's going to come in. Now, if the Banshee is gunned down, that's also hugely problematic. And it seems like HeRoMaRinE's going for a little bit more of a cautious harass, just trying to get rid of this depot over here, and I don't even believe that Ryung is going to try to contest this.
Supply blocks in actually losing that depot, so that's very annoying for Ryung. That slows down his tempo, and tempo is a big deal in this game.
Absolutely. Trying to get this one SCV over
here.
Get
it, I think. Whoa, a bit of a dance. SCV's on the top right of that command center. No, he just escapes. Doesn't want to lose his Reaper.
Yeah, he's going to have to pull out over there. While this is all still going on, we have HeRoMaRinE building up his tank count. But those Ravens from Ryung, excuse me, turned out to be pretty handy. A lot more helpful than the Banshees were for HeRoMaRinE later on. HeRoMaRinE does not seem, even though he has this one Raven here, he seems to be much more focused on trying to do damage just around the 4-minute 30-second marker to 5-minute 30-second marker, where Ryung is actually trying to set up for when you're on 3 bases, he can maneuver around the map and pick fights and usually get a better position that way.
Yeah, I mentioned that with his build, he's going to have an economic explosion, and that's the case. You see that Ryung is still ahead in workers, ahead in economy, ahead in income over HeRoMaRinE, whereas HeRoMaRinE, he's got a more beastly army because he's had that factory for longer, he's had that starport for longer, he has these high-tech units. So it's up to HeRoMaRinE to make this work for him, to get him back into this game, do some damage to Ryung so that he can either turn it into a longer game or just kill the guy.
Now, by taking that depot out, we have a moment where HeRoMaRinE can actually jump up onto this high ground. Now, he's hoping to pull some of these units into the main while this big attack at the front begins to commence. These tanks just out of range of the tank of Ryung. The bunker, however, is not.
Now, one of the Ravens did use their energy. There's not enough energy on this Raven to do anything at the moment in the natural. Where's that second Raven for Ryung? There it is. That one has plenty of energy here. That's what I wanted to see. All right, we've got a interference matrix on this tank here in the natural of Ryung. HeRoMaRinE in range of that with the Vikings giving him vision, and he breaks it down. One tank still remaining for Ryung, but there's a lot of damage output here for HeRoMaRinE. Lockdowns on everything happening at the moment, and Ryung is against the ropes. He's lifting off these SCVs to go in for the fight. Still 3 siege tanks alive for HeRoMaRinE, and even a Liberator coming in to help out. Ryung takes incredible economic damage.
24 workers killed. For Ryung, the tank's continuing to hammer away, and now a Liberator sets up inside the main base for Ryung.
Oh man, that's so annoying for Ryung. No energy on this Raven. The Cyclone slowly getting rid of it, but not before losing another 3 or 4 SCVs here, giving HeRoMaRinE more space to just rally more units across the map. He doesn't want to overextend too much. Losing these 3 tanks for not much damage would certainly suck for HeRoMaRinE.
All these tanks right now so brittle, he's going to have to back off. In fact, this may be the end of that attack. I stand corrected, Maynard. He's going to land mules and try to repair these as fast as possible, as he wants to keep the mounting pressure over here on Ryung. Ryung has only a few moments to scramble together the necessary defense to try to buy himself some more time. For the time being, HeRoMaRinE ahead in workers, 47 to 35.
And he's pushing this advantage, Tasteless. You guys might be seeing him rally units across the map going, oh, he's all in, right? No, he has a 3rd CC back at home that he's been working on. He's going to float that on location shortly, using this worker advantage to turn it into a macro advantage.
The tank now sieging up. Ryung knows what's coming. It's going to be a matter of unit control to see who can actually pull it off. Stem is a second away from finishing, which makes these Marines a lot stronger in some of these tiny engages. Keep in mind, the Vikings allow free spotting. Tanks can shoot further, tanks can shoot further than they can actually see. So having these Vikings gunned down here by Ryung is a huge win.
It certainly is, and it looks like Ryung will be able to clear out this contain here from HeRoMaRinE, which is great for him. And HeRoMaRinE's sort of against the ropes a little bit, losing these units, but he's not dead just yet. He's trying to slow down Ryung, shave off a few of these units, maybe target down attack. He does get it as well as a bunch of these Marines. Ryung does have more than triple the army supply of HeRoMaRinE right now, and a 3rd command center. So Ryung can now do exactly what HeRoMaRinE did to him and try and go for a contain, if not more damage. HeRoMaRinE is, of course, ahead in economy, but that command center is not on location yet. This extra saturation not really kicking in just yet. And Ryung is looking for any kind of damage here with these Vikings. In fact, the Vikings landing in the main would be kind of annoying.
So Liberators are moving out on the map. Now that may do some harass over here, but the fact that Ryung actually is in, I'd say, an overall better position to do even more damage. A lot of these SCVs getting gunned down here. Tanks coming in to try to help out. Already 6 SCVs killed. Only one of those Vikings actually taken out. And now Ryung sets up over by the Vespian gas geysers and continues to hammer away at HeRoMaRinE's SCVs.
This is a lovely abusable position for Terra to set up their tanks and be in range of those gas geysers, but HeRoMaRinE across the map, denying some mining here on 2 bases for Ryung. Ryung reacts at the 3rd, but not reacting in the natural just yet. He's going to lose some SCVs as well. Both players tearing each other apart economically. Who's going to come out on top in the end? It looks like HeRoMaRinE's upgrades are going to marry up with Ryung's in a short minute here.
Yeah, but unfortunately, the position here for Ryung is far, far better.
Definitely.
And I'm worried that there's not going to be an easy out now for HeRoMaRinE. These tanks still have the opportunity to fire away at the workers that would be mining at that gas. This expansion here for HeRoMaRinE, just to the upper left, has no workers at it. And Ryung is trying to pull the trigger, does come in now, guns down that Viking, denying the airspace. spotter.
That's what he wanted with that medevac, to get rid of the air spotter. There is still, unfortunately for Ryung, one more Viking here for HeRoMaRinE, so he is still keeping the extra vision available for him, so he has that range advantage on these tanks. HeRoMaRinE even unloaded some Marines on the low ground here to try and maybe catch some and reinforcements or even flank this tank position. He has to get rid of it. It looks like HeRoMaRinE may do that in a second here, and he stims on in.
Here comes the assault now. HeRoMaRinE spilling in. That last tank still in a decent position. HeRoMaRinE not quite able to break that location as the tank just above the minerals continues to fire away at the command center.
And Ryung's actually starting to take advantage here, Tasteless. He's ahead in workers again, he's ahead in army, and also he has 2-2 on the way, whereas HeRoMaRinE is just concentrating on producing as many units as possible. Ryung's ready for the next stage, but HeRoMaRinE's been kind of slowed down quite a lot here by this contain.
And note how Ryung is quite patient. He decides to give up that position, not allowing HeRoMaRinE to organize any further plans to deal with that. He's already relocating, looking around now for any area where he can actually try to attack into it. It looks like we might be seeing that right now, but HeRoMaRinE with a first stim and a better position. Good response, though, by Ryung actually chasing back those Marines, and I think we're going to see Ryung try to loop around either into the third base or into the main of HeRoMaRinE.
He's got plenty of medevacs, certainly can do that. There's not a whole lot of static defense in the main base of HeRoMaRinE either. A Doom Drop could be very, very deadly. He scans and he sees this army, he sees the medevacs. That's certainly something he has to be very, very afraid about. Does he have any Vikings left over? It's a big question I got in my mind. There's that Doom Drop, 16 Marines, 2 siege tanks. HeRoMaRinE just misses the edge of it.
Okay, I believe this has actually gone undetected.
Oh, this is going to hurt him so much.
HeRoMaRinE has failed to identify.
This is going to hurt so much, Tasteless. I think HeRoMaRinE's about to take a ton of damage. No turrets, no units in the main, and here comes Ryung, dumping down these siege tanks, sieging up the Marines around as well. HeRoMaRinE needs to come into this siege tanks and he wants to clean this up, and it's going to be tough to break.
And a nice job there by Ryung, actually taking out the tank. A second attack is about to come over here, either to the natural or to the third base. At the last moment, HeRoMaRinE drives this out, but that's exactly what Ryung wants as he attacks over here into the natural.
2 places at once getting nailed by Ryung. He's gotten 10 SCVs, now it's up to 15, 16. He's just continuing to do damage to HeRoMaRinE, even dumping on this tank here in the third base. He's hitting him everywhere here. HeRoMaRinE being knocked in every single facet of his infrastructure, suddenly stimming forward, pulling all the SCVs for the final battle. But I think this is the final battle. Ryung comes back from a huge deficit and takes a 2-0 victory.
Very impressive showing from Ryung. A true beast in the mid-game of TVT. He knows exactly how to outmaneuver his opponent. I thought HeRoMaRinE had a pretty impressive push early on, but Ryung knows how to survive. He knows how to hang on, and the moment he realizes his opponent has overextended, he is then able to start pushing out and dealing some damage of his own. Fantastic series back there.
And plenty of love from the crowd there for HeRoMaRinE, who put on a great showing against a TVT surgeon. In my opinion, Ryung is a threat to any Terran in this tournament. We're going to take a short break. When we come back, an interview with our winner, Ryung, and more StarCraft. Don't go away.
Welcome back, everybody, to the Intel Extreme Masters Katowice. We just had our first Terran match of the day, and it's Ryung that takes down HeRoMaRinE 2-0. So first of all, congratulations, Ryung. It was a pretty convincing 2-0 overall, and the only moment that it looked like it could potentially become dangerous for you was on that second map. So how were you able to defend so well, and was there ever a moment that you got worried?
일단 2대0 이긴 거 축하드리고요. 이제 그 두 번째 맵에서는 좀 위험할 수도 있었던 상황이었는데 수비를 되게 잘하셨어요. 그래서 그때 좀 걱정을 하셨는지 아니면 그냥 잘할 거라 믿었는지요?
빌드가 너무 좋아가지고 그냥 순간 막을 거는 막을 거라고 생각했고 그냥 한국 가서 써봐야겠다 이런 생각이 순간 들었어요. 그래서 그 생각만 안 들었으면 더 잘 막았을 것 같긴 해요.
So he said, as soon as he came in with that build, the first thing I actually thought was, wow, this is a really great strategy. I want to use this when I get back to Korea. I did think that I would be able to block it, but that's actually the first thought that I had, that I really liked the strategy. And I think that if I hadn't been already thinking about wanting to use it when I got back, I could have potentially blocked it better. But thankfully, he was able to do so and close it out 2-0. And now, looking at this group, you've already played 2 matches. First was against SOS and now against HeRoMaRinE. Overall, when you looked at the players that you had to play against, who did you think would be the most difficult?
이제 경기를 2개 했는데 선수들 중에서 누가 가장 어려운 상대일 것 같으세요?
어려운 상대보다는 그냥 어려운 종족이 토스가 3명이어가지고 거기서 살아남는 게 좀 간절하네요.
So he says, rather than any specific opponents, right now the matchup that I'm struggling most with is TVP, and I have 3 Protoss to get through, so right now that's the matchup that I'm really going to be focusing and worrying about. Now, last but not least, you just said Protoss, and your next matchup is going to be a Protoss. It's going to be Trap. When you've played him in the past, it's been pretty even, 3 wins, 3 losses, so what do you think about him personally?
이제 다음 상대는 조성호 선수로 만날 건데 3번 이기고 3번 졌었어요. 예전에 만났을 때는. 그래서 개인적으로 어떻게 생각하세요?
성호랑 만나면 뭐 항상 할만하다고 생각하고 비슷하다고 생각하기 때문에 뭐 저만 잘한다면은 충분히 이길 수 있다고 생각합니다.
In terms of Trap, I think that he's definitely someone that I can do well against. I don't think that he's better or anything like that. So I think that as long as I can play my game, that I will be able to take him down. So congratulations again, Ryung. Best of luck in your future match against Trap. Kaelaris, back to you.
Thank you very much, Smix, as we do have Ryung being able to take that 2-0. And importantly as well for him, wearing his old Axiom jersey. We heard from him in the open brackets, you know, basically paying homage to his old team leaders in Jenna and John Bain over for the Axiom house that showed him so much wealth, showed him so much support whilst he was on that team. He's kind of representing them here, even though not on that team anymore. So let's take a look at the results so far. As you can see, the Group D results are coming in as they follow, with Classic being able to take that 1-0 so far, which we can actually, I think, we'll get an update on Classic in a few moments here, Artosis, and the rest of the results are as shown. We do have other matches going on though, gentlemen. We're going to check in with Pig first. You did have SOS versus Trap, and I think you have a replay for us.
Yeah, absolutely. So it was a 2-0 win for SOS. Let's hop into game number 2. We can take a look at it. The first game, pretty close, pretty back and forth, ended up finishing in a rather standard way. But in the second game, we had Trap try to rush up to Dark Templar tech. Yes. So let's go in game and see how SOS takes advantage of that. So we see the Dark Templar tech is on the way. It's been a DT expand. There's a shield battery going down at the front. Couple of Stalkers out, but he has been skimping on units. Meanwhile, on SOS's side of the map, he's dumped pretty much every bit of extra energy into chrono boosting this Cyber Core.
Okay.
He's still expanding, but he's going for a really hard 2-gate pressure. Proxy pylon hidden down here. And from here, everything ramps up. Comes in with the double Adept, double Stalker. These double Adepts, of course, were threatening up to this point. They were keeping the Stalkers at home.
Ooh,
and notice how he blocks this Stalker and stops it from getting back up there to safety. Really nicely done. And this just starts to spiral out of control. This Stalker pops out on the wrong side of the gateways for Trap. A little bit of a disaster, as we call it.
That's right.
And things start to fall apart a little bit. We see, of course, more Stalkers coming in as we fast forward. Bit of a micro war. These Stalkers just kind of warping in as well as running across the map. And Trap's DT Shrine not quite ready in time. Just finishes up basically as the fight has already been won by SOS. So this is just SOS finding that tiny little timing, as he always does. Ends up winning the game here. Yes. And very nice play from him. So we can go ahead and hop out of that game. As you can see, pretty much all the probes are gone, and the DT is not going to do anything at home, as the Observer did pop out as well.
Yeah. We can jump right into my game because Classic and Laser are fighting right this moment. Classic has taken an early lead. He got 12 kills with his 2 Oracles to open. So he's followed up with Archon Zealot. He's putting that pressure on. There's been a lot of Roaches coming out and a lot of Roaches dying. So as you see, that is that just in the nick of time. Classic does end up taking it down 2-1. Although if you ask me, I think Laser could have won this 2-0. He did kind of throw away a bit of a lead in game 1, unfortunately.
Yeah, you were mentioning earlier, and we were discussing it throughout the break as well. So thank you very much, gentlemen, for the update, of course. That means now we're going to go to a short break because we have more matches to come. Our next match on the main stage is going to be Laser going up against SOS, and I know the Polish crowd is going to be excited for that one. And then Trap versus Ryung, and we have Classic going up against HeRoMaRinE as well. So stay tuned. More esports, more Intel Extreme Masters, more StarCraft.